There might not be a future.
After years of development hell, The Flash has finally arrived in theatres. So does this movie live up to the hype? Stay tuned to find out. At the core of The Flash is a story about a boy and his relationship with his mother. And the movie, for me, succeeds when it decides to focus on Barry Allen's past with his mum. I also liked how director Andy Muschietti and screenwriter Christina Hodson approach the theme of loss. A great example is an encounter that Ezra Miller's Barry Allen has with Ben Affleck's Batman, who, by the way, is fantastic given the short amount of screen time that he has. This scene was great as it showed Barry the importance of letting go of the pain that we go through in life and how that same pain ends up shaping the people we become. However, I feel this thematic element only gets its shine during the first and final acts. The second act feels somewhat overstuffed as the movie tries to explain to the audience how the multiverse works while introducing Batman and Supergirl and then adding General Zod and his army into the mix. This is the point where the movie starts to lose its focus when it introduces the other characters from the DC multiverse. That's not to say that the portrayal of Michael Keaton's Batman and Sacha Calle's Supergirl is bad or not warranted, but it just feels like the emotional element of Barry's story takes a backseat once these characters are introduced. Ezra Miller is the standout here as Barry Allen and The Flash. Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with Miller's off-screen antics that have effectively plagued the marketing of this movie. However, I'm only going to focus on his acting performance, and for what it's worth, he definitely brings the goods here. We know Miller has a great ability to deliver the comedic elements of The Flash, which are a staple of the character. But what makes this interpretation of the character stand out is Miller's ability to bring home the emotional aspects of Barry's past. His scenes with Maribel Verdú, who plays his mum, allows Miller to flex his acting chops, as we're able to see the suffering that he's been holding to ever since his mum's passing. I also think he does a great job at playing the two versions of the Flash. His portrayal of the alternate Flash is amusing to watch, as he has a knack of annoying the main Flash. Miller's acting allows the audience to get inside the mind of Barry, particularly with how main Barry reflects on how irritating his personality is when interacting with others. Michael Keaton reprises his iconic role as Bruce Wayne and Batman. When we first see the character, he's sporting long hair, wears raggedy clothes, and is as far removed from the Bruce Wayne that we're accustomed to seeing. Keaton plays a version of the character that is effectively done with being Batman. He still brings the same charm and charisma that made his version of the character so popular all these years later. Sacha Calle is fantastic as Kara Zor-El/Supergirl. She brings gravitas to her role just through her body language alone. She's able to convey a lot of history with her character without saying much, as when the character does explain her backstory, Calle is able to showcase the emotion that Supergirl has with her home planet, Krypton. The rest of the cast are solid in their roles. This includes Michael Shannon as General Zod, who brings menace and brute force to the character. But outside of the final battle, his character isn't given much to do, unfortunately, within the grander story. Director Andy Muschietti brings visual flair and style to this movie, especially with the Flash's running scenes. Previous versions of the character have opted for a blue lightning effect whenever he runs. In this movie, Muschietti opts for a bright orange colour palette, which I personally prefer. The brighter colour tone really amplifies how quick the Flash runs and provides clarity and focus to these scenes. Having said that, there are scenes where the visual effects look dodgy, to say the least. The scenes in which the Flash reverses time are where the bad CGI really shows. Many of the character models here look more at home with a PlayStation game than they do in a big budget Hollywood flick.
That is one big pile of shit.
The action is fantastic, including a thrilling opening chase sequence involving the Flash and Ben Affleck's Batman. Muschietti avoids choppy, quick cuts, as I always had a clear sense of where the characters were located to one another. I also love how the final set piece involving the Flash going back in time didn't result in another city-destroying superhero finale. Rather, it hones in on the emotional journey of Barry letting go of his past and learning to become a better person going forward. The pacing is mostly solid, as Muschietti provides the audience with enough information about the plot before moving on to the next story beat. However, as mentioned previously, the introduction of Keaton's Batman and Calle's Supergirl are where his inadequacies as a director start to show. The introduction of these characters are thrown on screen fairly quickly, as I never felt like enough time was spent developing their characters' motivations as to why they would help the Flash, a character who they barely know or care about. Granted, this is a movie about the Flash, although still, it would have been nice for these characters to have gotten a bit more in the way of development. Benjamin Wallfish is on composing duties here, and he delivers a whimsical, adventurous score that is fitting of the title character. His score has elements of John Williams, Jerry Goldsmith, and of course Danny Elfman, particularly with the reprisal of the iconic 1989 Batman theme. Ultimately, the score is a throwback to a bygone era of film composing, particularly with Wolfish's use of a largely symphonic orchestral soundtrack. This movie does have its fair share of problems. This includes the overstuffed elements of the story, the lack of development for Batman and Supergirl, the questionable visual effects, and a second act that doesn't live up to the engagement and pacing of the first or final acts. Where The Flash does succeed though is whenever it focuses on the story's emotional core involving Barry Allen and his mum. Miller, Keaton, Calle and Shannon deliver in the acting department, and Andy Muschietti, despite some questionable CGI in several scenes, proves to be a solid choice for this movie in terms of delivering visual flair and start to the action. Overall, I'm going to give The Flash a 7.5 out of 10. So I now hand it over to you, as I want to find out your thoughts on The Flash. Did the movie live up to your expectations, or did it fall short of what you had hoped for? As I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you all for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.